Hello again, and welcome back to another Daily Bread Bible study. We are looking at day 75 for Sunday, March 15th, 2020, focusing on Judges chapter 9 through 10. So today we'll continue after Gideon, and we'll talk about his son, Abimelech, and we'll see some challenges that arise with appointing another king over the people. So we will hear what God has to say starting in Judges chapter 9. In Judges 9:2 it says, "Say in the hearing of all the lords of Shechem, which is better for you, that all 70 of the sons of Jerubbaal, or Gideon as he's known, rule over you, or that one rule over you?" So Abimelech persuades the lords of Shechem that he should, be their king. So what Abimelech does is he, quote unquote, in verse 4, hired worthless and reckless fellows and killed his brothers, 70 of them, minus Jotham the youngest. And then in verse 6 it says, "Then all the lords of Shechem and all Beth Millo came together, and they went and made Abimelech king by the oak of the pillar of Shechem." So Abimelech becomes the king for 3 years. While they are there, Abimelech's remaining brother, who is not killed, Jotham, speaks a parable. It starts in Judges 9:8, talking about the trees once went out to anoint a king over themselves. And he mentions about the olive tree saying, "No, thank you, I got a good gig." Fig tree saying, "No, thank you, I'm happy with what I produce." The grapevine saying, "I'm meant to produce grapes, no, thank you." And it gets all the way down to the fourth option of just bramble, thorns and briars. And the fourth option says, if in good faith you are anointing me king over you, then come and take refuge in my shade. I think the idea Jotham is making is that these options are not the best, and they're definitely forced. And this is an analogy to Abimelech, saying that if you really want it, it can be so, but if this is something that is forced, then no good is going to come from it. Jotham is correct, and we see that just shortly into their time together, in Judges 9:23, "But God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the lords of Shechem, and the lords of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech." They are thorns in each other's side, a lot like bramble. And we get to see then a lot of the battles of Abimelech trying to really justify himself and just fight. Moving all the way to Judges 9:45, we see Abimelech fought against the city all that day, and he took the city and killed the people that were in it, and he razed the city and sowed it with salt. So he is desecrating all these places until he comes to Thebes and the Tower of Thebes there in Judges 9:50. It says in verse 53, "But a certain woman threw an upper millstone on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. And immediately he called to the young man who carried his armor and said to him, 'Draw your sword and kill me, so that people will not say to me, a woman killed me.' So the young man thrust him through, and he died. When the Israelites saw Abimelech was dead, they all went home. Thus God repaid Abimelech for the crime he committed against his father in killing his 70 brothers. And God also made the wickedness of the people of Shechem fall back on their heads. And on them came the curse of Jotham, son of Jerubbaal." So we see that things quickly fell apart when it was done through deceit and plotting and violence. And that is something that God would not have of his leaders. In Judges 10, we move on to talk about two new leaders who rise up and quote unquote judge Israel. That's the term for the book of Judges. This leadership role was called judging. We've got two individuals, Tola, who went 23 years, and Jair, who did 22 years of judging for the Israelites. At the end of all of that, there is more oppression by the Ammonites. The Israelites again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, worshiping the Baals and all the other gods around. So in Judges 10:7, it says, "So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of the Philistines and into the hands of the Ammonites. And they crushed and oppressed Israel that year. And for 18 years they oppressed all the Israelites that were beyond the Jordan and the land of the Amorites, which is in Gilead." It's the same cycle again, that they just repeat this cycle, especially in Judges, the idea that Israel worships other gods, God is displeased, and some other nation comes and takes over the Israelites for 18 years or so and has strong oppression. Then after that, God sends a deliverer. We hear them inquire of God, and God says, "Yet you have abandoned me and worshipped other gods. Therefore I will deliver you no more. Go and cry to the gods whom you have chosen. Let them deliver you in your time of distress." And the Israelites follow up saying, "A confession, we have sinned. Do to us whatever seems good to you, but please deliver us this day." So they put away their foreign gods from among them and worshiped the Lord, and he could no longer bear to see Israel suffer. We see that God does not want destruction upon God's people. God just wants to be worshipped and revered and to be praised for all the good things that God does in our lives. So even in the midst of challenging circumstances, may we be able to see God's blessings that God has for us, that God is continuing to sustain us in our lives and all that we are connected with. So may we be at peace with that. And then the rest of the chapter, we will see it's setting up two characters for next time, Jephthah and Samson. So we will see Jephthah and Samson mentioned next time. So thanks for joining us. Look forward to seeing you again.